What bird goes birdie, birdie, birdie? Find out next on the Garden Gate.
My goodness, I heard one singing this morning. First one of the year.
Yay. Welcome to another episode of The Garden Gate. I'm here with Drew Monkman, local naturalist and author, a retired teacher, and we're talking about ways to identify birds that might be in your backyard or when you're out walking. So Drew, what can you tell us to give us a few tips to get started?
To get started, I would say to learn the commoners, the European starling, the house finch, house sparrow, probably even more so than the house finch, and the crow at this time of year.
Okay.
Just because quite often size is the biggest or most important piece of information when it comes to bird identification. It's very difficult to see the colors in a lot of situations.
Right, unless you have some binoculars or some other tools to help you along.
So if you can compare a bird, if you can say it was crow size, if it was sparrow size, or let's say blue jay size, that gets you...
and I imagine their habitat too, like where you actually see them, whether it's in the backyard.
That's right, yes. The habitat's very important. Birds are very habitat specific.
Right.
Also the time of year. Most of the birds that frequent the Kawarthas now are on their wintering grounds.
Right.
We only have a relatively small number that spend the entire year here. So knowing what to expect, knowing the bird's range, and knowing the habitat are all important pieces of the puzzle.
And do you have certain like websites or tools that you use to learn an actual call from a bird?
Well, there's all kinds of great websites that are available, including All About Birds from Cornell University, I believe. And that's a particularly good site too for the calls.
Right.
It gives you hints as to how to remember them.
Oh, neat. Okay.
All kinds of different tricks people can use to remember calls.
Yeah, it's always fun, isn't it? And you've got a phone there. Are you using your phone to help identify birds as well?
That's right. This is a particularly useful app from Sibley's.
Right.
And what I like about it is the fact that it has all of the songs and calls.
Right.
Song and call being slightly different, but I'll just play the song of the Northern Cardinal. The first one of which I heard this morning for 2013, wonderful. So they're already starting to sing again. Here we go.
Very nice.
And that tends to be the call we hear most, or the song we hear most in Peterborough.
Right.
And what's interesting too about the cardinal is both the male and female sing, which is quite
that's unusual,
unique in birds.
And do you find if you were to sit outside with this, that the bird would come around if they're in the area?
They will come around, yes, especially the cardinal. Yeah. More so during the breeding season, but by playing the call or song, you can bring them in, as long as you don't abuse it.
Right.
Because birds are under a lot of stress to begin with, especially when they're nesting.
Right.
And if you're playing the call, that can... have them use up unnecessary energy reserves.
Yeah. And what are some areas around town that you actually are in the area that you go to see the birds? Like, are there some natural areas you'd go to?
Oh, well, certainly. And once again, it depends on the time of year. Right now, the Otonabee River is a particularly good place.
Great.
Anywhere along the Otonabee, Little Lake, depending on the ice conditions.
Of course, yeah. Okay, well, thanks, Drew. These have been great tips, and hopefully we'll have you again on the Garden Gate. It's been very nice to chat with you.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Garden Gate. We'll see you next time.
The Garden Gate is brought to you by the Avant Garden Shop, your destination for gardening accessories and backyard birding supplies.